Hello, good people. Welcome back to the Kuhb Games YouTube channel. We continue our trek down the 50 worst cards in GOAT format's history, and today we are going over number 20 through 11, so we are truly getting close to the bottom of the worst of the worst. As always, do have Petty with me, so say hi to the people, Petty.
Hi, the people, Patty.
Petty is fresh off of like a 4-day not on the internet, not at his computer break, so he is fresh and is not feeling any of the bad vibes from having to look at this list, so this should be a
I'm
great
raring to
video
go.
for him.
Yeah, I'm expecting some really good Yu-Gi-Oh cards where we can talk about them and their applications in the game.
Oh yeah, we're definitely going to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And we are definitely going to talk about how they may or may not ever be used in the game.
Ooh,
That
Cub,
is,
you know what we should do at the end of this? We should look up the prices of these cards and figure out what the most expensive of the bottom 50 cards is.
I think I actually know the answer.
You know that, okay?
I think I do know the answer. I think some people have already commented it, actually.
Okay.
Though, looking at some of these others, maybe some of them can give it a run for its money.
Okay.
Either way, comment down below if you know what the most expensive original print of these
Yes.
cards is. I'm sure there's, well, like Card of Sanctity, I think was like, okay, sorry. Besides Card of Sanctity's original print, because I just gave that away, Card of Sanctity in the TCG had some like really weird print for some promo thing where like they only made like less than 100 of them or something. And you don't ever see those. Yeah, excluding Card of Sanctity, because I just thought of that and kind of gave it away. Yeah, comment below if you know what the most expensive card from this list is. Everybody's frantically pulling up their TCG player, like, I'm gonna get this right.
Yeah, doing deep research.
You know what's not expensive though?
Yeah.
There's a common trap card, I believe, from Pharaoh's Servant. It's called Armored Glass. So this, I believe, we talked about Mystic Probe, how we may have gotten that one wrong. Someone did bring up that it stops Convulsion of Nature and Archfiend's Oath in the library deck, but that's probably like the best thing it's ever doing. But if you ask me, Mystic Probe should probably be down here on the level of Armored Glass, so just think of it being right here too. But yeah, Armored Glass is a normal trap card that reads, you can activate this card when a monster is equipped with an equip card. Negate the effects of all equipped cards on the field during the turn this card is activated. So I want to draw attention to the wording. You can activate this card when a monster is equipped with an equipped card. When we first started talking about this card, we were like, oh, Premature Burial, Snatch Steal, it can stop all of those. Those are pretty well-played cards, but doesn't really stop Premature Burial, does it?
It sure doesn't. We went down the rabbit hole of like, so these cards are really bad because they only stop it for one turn. And so we were like, well, Premat's like a weird effect, right? It brings it back from the grave. So if you stop it for one turn, does it like ever come back? And so we started looking it up, and then we reread the card text and we were like, oh, the activation timing on this is very, very specific. You can't even use it on pre-mat. Not at all.
Yeah. And if your opponent already has something equipped with Premature Burial and you use this card and then you destroy that Premature Burial for whatever reason, that monster is not destroyed because the Premature Burial is negated on the field.
Yeah.
So you're hitting like... this also kind of doesn't even work with Snatch Steal, actually, because the monster is equipped, and Snatch Steal is negated. But then at the end of the turn, the Armored Glass effect goes away, and Snatch Steal's turned back on. So, like,
Right.
Armored Glass doesn't actually deal with the equip card. Not to mention that, like, it's also outclassed by other cards. Like, you could play really Eternal Rest is legal in GOAT format, right?
It is, yeah.
Okay, yeah, you could play really Eternal Rest, you could just play Eternal Rest, you could play Collected Power, all kinds of stuff to deal with whatever problematic equip spell that you can think of. This card is just the bottom of this effect, for sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like an application. And I think what makes Armored Glass unique among that class of cards is that it only negates instead of destroys. And so like could you come up with a situation where you like want all of them to be just negated and you will have it on the field when one of them is being activated? No, that will never
Yeah.
happen. But it is like I don't know if another card does exactly what this card is doing. Um even if what this card is doing is bad.
Yeah. I thought I actually thought of a scenario in my head, but it wouldn't work out because it would be during the damage step. If you attack over
Oh
one of
no.
your opponent's monsters equipped with Flint, and then Flint is moved onto one of your monsters, you could armored glass
Right.
it, but that doesn't work because it's during the damage step when the monster is destroyed.
Yeah, and it's only when it's activated when the card's like, oh yeah, no, that's pretty clever, Cub. But yeah, that doesn't work. That's unfortunate. And I'm trying to think like, okay, what decks are you reasonably gonna see with equip cards? And you think like Ben K, right? But it's
Mhm.
not gonna work with Ben K either, right? Like it'll give Ben
Yeah.
K, it will take his attack increases away, I guess, but he still gets to attack multiple times,
Hmm.
which is still gonna be like pretty good. And so
Yeah. I guess.
yeah, armor class.
Yeah, even if it's able to attack, say, 6 times, without those buffs, it's only going to be 3,000 damage. So I can't
Well,
imagine where like stopping the buffs from the equips would help Ben K. Unless you're
it's
just
just a
playing
really
a
bad
bunch of,
card. It's worse than we thought.
yeah, I guess you could play like a bunch of detrimental equips with Ben K and just for fun use armored glass to just be like, you thought I was doing useless things and now you're losing 3,000 life points.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those cards where they came up with the mechanic of like wanting to negate for a single turn, and they made all these different styles of cards that do that without like a real consideration of whether that's going to be good or not. Because
Yeah.
this feels like you could totally slap on like and draw one card on this effect, and it still wouldn't see play. I don't
Yeah.
think because the
It,
activation timing is so much.
yeah, it would still be too narrow for sure. Or like they could have just made it like have the same activation cost. Like you can only activate this card when a monster is equipped. Destroy all equipped cards on the field. That would be
Yeah.
miles better, of course. But no, they
Yeah, I feel
they
like it would be even better if like, they let you destroy even just the monster. Like
mm,
activate this card when a monster is equipped, destroy the monster, because then you
yeah.
go +1, right? And that's still pretty bad because it's again like quite narrow. And then Snatch Steal, you would be going like 2 for 1, which is bad. But
Yeah.
yeah, it could be better, but it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, it could definitely be a lot better. Instead, it's at number 20 on the worst cards
Hmm,
ever printed in code format. But oh wait,
there's more.
there is more. And if you
Oh,
all are
sheesh.
getting tired of this
Oh god.
list,
Not the pun
um,
count.
boy, do I have an exhausting one for you. And not only is this card exhausting by name, it was also exhausting figuring out that we needed to move this card down on the list by like 10 slots because we figured
Mhm.
out rulings that made this card even worse. And this card, if you haven't figured it out yet, is Exhausting Spell. So this is a normal trap card that reads remove all spell counters on the field. Originally we had this a little bit higher because we found the use case of activate this, your opponent can't use their breaker's effect to destroy anything. Well, that doesn't work.
Nope.
For the same reason that like even if they have the chance, like they get to put the spell counter on, you don't have the opportunity to use exhausting spell to take that counter off before your opponent has the opportunity to put breaker on the chain as chain link 1 because it's an
Mhm.
ignition effect. So exhausting spell is basically a trap card that has no text, but
Yeah.
occasionally you can play against some spell counter stuff, so it's not like super dupery low on this list. And also it does work against library, I I guess.
Yeah,
I
I
like
guess.
yeah, like there's so many better answers to library, but I guess exhausting spell does have some sort of use. It's just really we're just arguing that this card shouldn't be even lower on the list because it's only a -1.
Yeah, but I'm looking at it now and I'm like, would I rather remove all spell counters on the field, or would I rather skip my standby phase? And I like enthusiastically would rather skip my standby phase. I'm starting to think like Solomon's Law Book, that's really a good card. That effect
Yeah.
matters. With this one, it's like it's never gonna come up. Breaker was its only shot and then it blew it.
Yeah, pretty much. Speaking of Solomon's Law Book, I don't know if you saw the comment on the last video, but Madcap brought up that Solomon's Law Book, if you use it in a certain way, it can actually keep Swords of Concealing Light on the field.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You mean.
Yeah, indefinitely until it's destroyed.
So that card has like it's like very specific on like the exact standby phase, and then you skip it, and then huh.
Yep. So
That's clever.
Yeah.
So you could kind of lock your opponent down a little bit with that. Okay.
Yes. Yep. So Solomon's Law Book is kind of cool, whereas Exhausting Spell is just tiring.
I hate Exhausting Spell. Until next week where we get a trap or something where we're like, I would much rather remove all the spell counters than this card.
Moving on from Exhausting Spell, we have yet another normal trap card, and this one is going to complete the cycle from the god-awful Pharaoh's Servant negate until the end of the turn cards. And this card, I think, has actually some of the best art, at least in my opinion, of any of the cards on this list. I think this art is really sick. This is World Suppression. World Suppression is, of course, a normal trap card that reads, you can activate this card when a field spell card is activated. Negate the field spell card until the turn. During the turn this card is activated.
Yep.
Yeah. That's...
Yep.
Yep. Not a lot of field spells going around. Like, I guess, a Legendary Ocean is probably the most played. Like, after that...
Necro Valley.
Yeah, Necro Valley.
Gate, maybe.
Fusion Gate.
Fusion Gate?
Sure.
Yeah.
Fusion Gate makes sense. But, like... just... Again...
okay.
Yeah. Just Armored...
Would you like it better? All right. If it were negate the field spell forever, would it make this list?
Yeah.
That be good enough? I think it would still make the list, right?
Yeah, it would definitely still make the list because, like, you could just play another field spell over the field spell.
That's true. Oh, man. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Now reading it literally says negate the field spell. Oh, no. So even with this card as it's currently printed, you could still play a field spell over that field spell. And even if it's the same exact card, you still get the effect of that field spell. So this card, I mean, like, Armored Glass, I think, we're comparing, like, trash to trash, but Armored Glass can at least stop Snatch Steal for a turn. It can stop your opponent from killing you with Ben K for a turn. Something like that. World Suppression is turning off a field spell. It's likely going to stick around until the next turn, and then your opponent's going to get full value out of it. And it doesn't even guaranteed stop all of the field spells if they have just another copy of it. And, like, let's be real. If they're a deck that's playing a field spell, their deck is sort of built around that field spell, there's a decent likelihood they've got another copy or access to another copy. So, I mean... this card is basically just activate, put it in your graveyard, pick up your cards, walk away, never come back.
Yeah, I think some of the weakness of the past two specifically they are like specifically counter plays against an element of an opponent's deck that is very, very rare. Where Armored Glass, you can expect Snatch Steal in basically every deck. And so if you're going to play that, at least you can fall back on that. Like I could see a masochist putting Armored Glass in their side deck, and they're like, okay, it's here for Snatch Steal, but if they have additional equips, maybe I'll bring in the boy. But it just doesn't make sense to ever play Exhausting Spell or World Suppression in even your side, because it is so specific that even if it did the thing it's trying to do the best, it doesn't. But even if it did, you still wouldn't want it because it's still too narrow. And so you kind of just don't really ever have a use case for these cards, which I think makes it even worse, because like there really is a baseline like value proposition from Sparks because you're always going to want the opponent to have 200 less life points. That's just always true.
Yep.
But World Suppression, that's just you're really far away from that. It's very niche.
Yeah, for sure. But again, not lower on the list because only -1. Just like
It
just
is a
like
positive effect, technically.
it is technically a positive effect for you. That is definitely true. So yeah, it's not. No, I'm not even gonna try to. I'm not gonna try to sugarcoat this. I'm done with
No.
that. We've been through enough of that.
Yeah, this is dark pub, dark petty. We're no longer praising the cards; they just suck.
You've actually you've gotten some praise in the comments from
Oh,
trying to show how useful the cards can be. Everyone's going to be disappointed that you're flipping on them now.
I didn't know that. I'm sorry, but at the same time, this is tough love. These cards aren't getting better; they're only getting worse.
That is absolutely true. Speaking of getting worse, this is a card that I skipped over originally. And then whenever we were going over the list, you read this card and you're like, this is so bad.
So
And
bad.
this is one of the cards that I think a lot of people probably would skip over and maybe not think would be on this list because it's kind of unassuming when you think about it. But this is the Archfiend support card, Battle Scarred. So this is a continuous trap card with a lot of text. It says, activate this card by targeting one Archfiend monster you control. Your opponent also pays the same life points that you pay for that monster during the standby phase. When this card leaves the field, destroy that monster. If that monster leaves the field, destroy this card. There are multiple layers to break down with this one. First of all, you have to have an Archfiend monster in your deck. We'll start with that. So there is a deck building constraint, and it is not a good one. Not a lot of Archfiends going around. I know some people are going to pull up Alefia's list right now and be like, look, Archfiend's topped an event. It topped an event. Terra King Archfiend, it's right here. Well, Alefia can win with like a dumpster that's on fire and people are continually pouring gasoline on it. So that doesn't mean the Archfiend cards are good. But moving past that, your opponent also pays the same life points that you pay for that monster during the standby phase. Why are you still paying the life too? Like, it's not taking away the adverse effect and giving it to your opponent. It's just making it equal. So we've got deck building constraint. We have an effect that's not necessarily positive. And then we have the worst part of the card. When this card leaves the field, destroy that monster. So you went through the process of adding an Archfiend monster to your deck, playing this card that's an inherent -1 on the field, that's not giving you the best effect in the world, and it's not necessarily a net, well, it's not a net positive, it's a net even. So you're -1ing yourself for almost nothing. You are operating under a bad deck building constraint, and then you're giving your opponent the option to not only destroy this card so that they won't take any more life points, but also take out your monster in the process. Oh boy.
Yeah. I think for me, there's two additional kind of marks against this card. Similar to Jam Defender, this card is like, all right, so best case scenario, right? Best case scenario, you want to flip this card and to kill your opponent. Your opponent has 500 life points left. You want to flip it in your standby phase and it kills them. That's the best case scenario. And so they're like the cost of activating the card is targeting the monster. And so if they destroy the monster, as far as I understand it, like in that same chain, Battle Scarred will fail to resolve, right? And so you go down on card advantage too, which is horrible.
Yeah,
it's super duper slow. Like it should be able to activate it, and then the effect takes place immediately, so you can burn your opponent immediately, and then you can just win the game. But no, if they have Regeki Break, they can just get rid of Battle Scarred and the monster. So that's quite bad. The other thing, which I think is even worse in a way, is that if you're playing Archfiends, you're probably playing Pandemonium, because Pandemonium is not bad. It's like the card advantage engine for that deck, kind of, and it prevents you from paying. Um, but Battle Scarred reads that your opponent will pay the same amount of life points you do. So if Pandemonium's up, nobody pays. And so you really can't play Battle Scarred if you're going to play Pandemonium. And
Yep.
Pandemonium's better, but still not like good. And so
Right.
it has anti-synergy with its own archetype. It's so bad. Why would they do that?
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, it's never gonna come out as anything more than a -1.
Hmm.
It just can't. And then like while you were talking about that, I even thought, this is just outclassed by pretty almost every single burn card, and
Yeah.
it's also outclassed by almost every single life gain card. So it's outclassed by a lot.
Yeah.
Just
I mean,
a ton.
even on like a base level, it's a trap, right? And so it's slow
Yeah.
too. I mean, like it's a standby phase effect, and so it's never going to be fast no matter what. Like this idea is a slow idea to begin with. Like
Yeah.
it's not better if it's a spell card. It's probably worse if it's a spell card, but
Yeah.
it's slow
Yeah.
because you have to have had an Archfiend card on the field already in preparation for this card's activation
Yep.
in your next turn. And so it's going to be on the field for a long time before you ever get value from this.
Yep. And I also think it's worth interest. It's worth noting that this card could have said something along the lines of like your opponent pays like all of the
Yes.
standby phase maintenance costs of your Archfiends, or like even if it just said
Yes.
both players pay all of it, that would be a lot better. But you literally can only target one, and also like a hallmark like piece of the Archfiend cards is protecting themselves from targeted destruction. This just makes it so you don't have to target the monster. You can just target this card and get rid of it. And then it gets rid of the monster. So yeah, it is like,
Oh, that's right.
yeah, this is
Oh,
just
that's
goes
clever. It's
completely
actually
against the
really
Archfiend stuff.
bad.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it is. I don't want to say that this is a bad archetype support card because I don't want to call it support.
It's just like wow. I think talking through it, it might even be worse than we thought. I don't think we move it further down the list, of course, because I think what's coming up next is worse. But
It's pretty bad.
man,
Yeah.
yeah,
Speaking of Archfiend support cards, we're not done talking about them.
nope.
Nope. We've got another one that's also really cool. But man, Checkmate. Look at that art and then just read the
I
card.
know.
Checkmate is a spell card that reads tribute one Archfiend monster. Then target one Terror King Archfiend you control. It can attack directly this turn. Just like Battle Scarred, we've got layers here. First of all, you have to put Archfiend monsters in your deck. Bad start. Second, you have to tribute an Archfiend monster. You can't tribute a Sangan or a Sinister Serpent. It specifically has to be an Archfiend. Third, you have to target exactly Terror King Archfiend. None of the others. You have to have that specific one. And then you might think that this is a good effect. Terror King Archfiend can attack directly. Yay, a free 2,000 damage. Well, Terror King Archfiend kind of wants to attack monsters. So this card just has like Battle Scarred itis as well. Just like layers and layers of everything is not good. And Battle Scarred's only a -1. Checkmate is a whole -2 to deal 2,000 damage once. If the attack goes through.
Yeah, if the attack goes through. Yeah, I mean, it has the same Battle Scarred thing where you have to target the Terror King Archfiend preemptively. So if they remove it immediately, it won't even get a chance to do it. Which, like, for this card, it's so slow that that's not even a consideration. Like, your opponent would obviously just wait for the battle phase, too. So, like, they even have, like, a tempo advantage on you because you have to activate this in the main phase. It's not a quick place card, which, if it were...
Yeah.
It would be a little bit better because then you could attack with the first Archfiend monster then tribute it, then attack directly. And so that would be okay.
Mhm.
By okay, I mean bad, but Checkmate's like one of the worst it has to be anime. It has to be. There
Yeah,
has to be this happened in the anime. That's the
yeah.
only thing that makes sense. I think
Like,
it's for BM. I think you use this if you want to BM. You're like so far ahead of your opponent, and you're like, I can destroy you with bad cards. Checkmate, loser. Here you go. I went
loser.
neg too.
That would be the name of the video if I was giving these videos cool names.
Loser.
That's got to be a meme deck Monday now. We have to do Checkmate, and
Oh
that's the name
God.
of the video. That's what we're doing. People have been asking for Archfiends. Here you go. We'll play Battle Scarred and Checkmate. We'll just go completely off the rails.
I don't know. The viewers never got to experience how long it took us to get the Machine Tube episode up and running, but I think Checkmate it it might even rival it if we want to use it for an actual good effect because it's as
Yeah,
you said, you don't want to attack directly. Why did they do this? You don't want to do that.
yeah. Just like Battle Scarred. It's meant to be support, but it ends up being anti-support. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just both of those are just very very poorly designed cards, like all over. I think.
Yeah.
Speaking of poor design, this card, I get the design of it. Everybody gets the design of this card. I wouldn't necessarily call it bad design. And it's mostly like, it's hard to summon. This is a monster. It's the first monster, well, only the third monster that we've had on the list. I guess the Spirit of the Pharaoh is sort of
Oh, wow.
recent, so it's not the first monster in a while. But we're gonna talk about Exodia Necross. And this is in the thumbnail, so you all knew this card was coming at some point in this video. Exodia Necross, very iconic card. It is a 4-star 1800 attack, 0 defense monster, so basically Legion until you get into the effect. Exodia
Okay.
Necross.
I bet it's a really good effect.
Yeah, it's awesome, actually.
It's gotta be.
Actually, the effect is kind of powerful.
Okay. All right. Go on. I haven't heard this in a while. Go on.
So Exodia Necross reads, cannot be normal summoned or set. Must be special summoned.
Okay.
Not must first. Must be special summoned with contract with Exodia. Cannot be destroyed
Okay.
by battle or spell and trap effects. Once per turn during your standby phase, this card gains 500 attack. Okay. Destroy this card unless all 5 of these cards are in your graveyard. And those are the 5 pieces of Exodia. Let's get into contract with Exodia. Let's just take a look at that. Because we're gonna start out with the bads. So contract with Exodia is a normal spell card that reads, if you have all 5 of the Exodia pieces in your graveyard, special summon 1 Exodia Necross from your hand.
Oh my god, it's the hand.
Not even the deck. Yeah, not the deck, not the graveyard, the hand. So not only is contract with Exodia gonna -1 you, you get this guy, which I have tried for hours and hours just to summon it. I had more luck summoning perfectly Ultimate Great Moth than this card. I'll be honest.
No.
This thing, even though its effect is super powerful, it can't be destroyed by spell, a trap, or a battle. And it gains 500 attack during each of the standby phases. So this is just like basically just going to snowball the game. This card can win the game by itself. The cost of the setup to summon it is just way too big. You have to get all 5 limited cards, by the way, into your graveyard specifically. You have to dodge them being removed at any point. You have to activate basically the ritual card, contract with Exodia, and you have to have this thing in your hand to summon it. And then whenever you do, immediately this thing only has 500 attack. Or sorry, it only has 1800 attack. So it's not even like winning the game right off from all of that setup, and it can be destroyed by Night Assailant. So like you're getting like nothing for all of that right off. You need this thing to stick around for turn after turn after turn to really like turn into something huge. And then if one of the Exodia pieces is somehow removed from the graveyard in any way while it's on the field, it's gone. It's just the setup is too hard for the payoff, and it's fragile in a way. Also, like we didn't even mention like Chaos Sorcerer, BLS, and all that stuff.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say let's talk about, all right. So there's gonna be people in the comments who are like, I love Exodia Necross, and I'm gonna write a defense of this card, and my response to you is an ordered list: colon, Book of Moon, Exiled Force, DD Warrior Lady, Tribe Infecting Virus, Chaos Sorcerer, Blackluster Soldier. Must I go on?
Not to mention, a lot of monsters people look at and they specifically say this monster is Tsukuyomi proof.
Yep.
Yeah, imagine just like you do all of this and then your turbo opponent's just like, oops, Tsukuyomi.
It's even like, not only does it just remove the protection that Exodia Necross has, it also takes the attack increases away, which is
It
like,
sure does.
especially mean.
It sure does. Yeah, it loses everything. Also, it doesn't ever gain defense. So like you could stop this with block attack if you really wanted to.
Yeah. L Lab just makes
L-
it a big dummy.
You've got this big like 10,000 attack Exodia Necros on the field, and your opponent's just like, level limit area B, Panda, Crunch.
Yeah.
And you just lose like everything because you have to even put this in your deck. We were talking about deck building constraints with the Archfiend cards. This is your deck. There's no other way to play this card. And even like talking about that, this card is outclassed by its own cards. Like,
Right.
we've seen Exodia decks in GOAT format. Granted, none of them are that good, competitively speaking, but you're better off putting your Exodia pieces in your graveyard and then getting them back with Backup Soldier or Dark Factory of Mass Production or Monster Reincarnation and winning the duel than getting them all there to summon out this guy. It's just, the trade-off is just like massively not worth it.
Yeah, I think this has a little bit of like anime-itis in that I think the overall kind of card design intention was Exodia's hard to do. And if they get rid of one of your pieces, like if they get rid of the head and the graveyard, it's like relatively difficult to get back. And so you want like a backup plan for when that fails. You get all of them in the graveyard and then you have this big boy who can get in.
Yeah.
Why was it necessary to have contract with Exodia? Why couldn't it just be you can special this from the deck,
Right.
if all 5 pieces are in the graveyard? Because then it would be
Right.
like, that actually is a backup plan. It's not good. It's honestly still not good, but I can see that. I could see Exodia players playing the one of Ben.
Yeah, for sure. If you could just bring this out of happenstance, yeah, cool. And like, well, I guess you would have to like still have the last effect where it's destroyed if one of the pieces is removed, because then you could just be like, yeah, you just get this guy for free, but then you happen upon your ways to get your Exodia pieces back, and then you can win the game as well. But
right.
Yeah, you definitely would play this in an Exodia deck if it didn't have to have contract and you could summon it from the deck. But even then, it's still just like a brick and a half if you draw it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So
speaking of, I don't know about you, but I have a huge like Mandela effect with this card. I could have sworn it was a ritual monster. I could have sworn Contract with Exodia was a ritual spell card. Like, don't you, like, you close your eyes and you think of this card, don't you think it's a blue card? I do, every time.
See,
this is a shock to me.
Now that you say it, I don't, like, I grew up with this card. I had it back when I was a kid, so I know that this isn't a ritual monster. But now that you say that specifically, I feel like I remember the little ritual symbol on Contract with Exodia.
Right.
So yeah, no, I actually do get that a little bit.
Yeah, I do wonder if like in a game or something, it was a ritual monster and a ritual card. Because like I really like, I close my eyes and I see the blue. So if anyone can help me out or like let me know whether you feel the same way, like I have very strong feelings about the blueness of this card. more
Yeah.
than anything else.
Yeah. No, that's kind of interesting now that you bring that up. Yeah.
Of course, it would be made better if it were, because then it would be searchable, which is great, but it's
Yeah.
not. So it's even worse.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you can't search this thing. You can search this thing with Witch of the Black Forest, which is banned. Um, I can't think of any other way that you can search this to your hand that's legal in GOAT format. So yeah, you just have to
Uh,
draw it.
yep, you sure do.
Speaking of cards with setup, um,
Oh man.
this one I kept going back to because I would look at the list. I'm like, is this card really this bad? And then I remember what all it takes to get this card to be used. And this card is Dark Scorpion Combination. So this is a trap card that reads, you can only activate this card when there are Dawn Zalug, Cliff the Trap Remover, Dark Scorpion Chick the Yellow, Dark Scorpion Gorg the Strong, and Dark Scorpion Minay the Thorn face up on your side of the field. During this turn, any of these cards can attack your opponent's life points directly. In that case, the battle damage inflicted to your opponent by each of those cards becomes 400. All right. Layers. Once again, you can only activate this card when you have 5 specific monsters on your side of the field, and they have to be one of each of those 5. You can't just have 5 Dark Scorpion monsters on the field. You have to have all of them. And I don't know if you all have read the Dark Scorpion cards, but Gorg the Strong is awful. This card is very,
Oh, don't do my
very
boy
bad.
dirty. What do you mean? He's not on this list. You're throwing shade on Gorg, and he's not the bottom 50.
I'm throwing shade on Gorg. The others are actually
No.
decent, but like
Yeah.
if you're doing this the traditional way, you are summoning out 5 monsters and then tributing 1 for Gorg the Strong, because it is a level 5. You do have to tribute for it, and then you are activating this card. First off, congratulations. If you have assembled all of these monsters on the field and they are still there, you've probably already won the game. You're so far ahead of your opponent that you don't need this card. So
Yeah.
not like you're already in a good position if you're even able to meet the activation requirement. And your whole payoff is now they can all attack your opponent's life points directly, which is a good thing. They do all have good effects whenever they hit your opponent's life points. But the battle damage inflicted to your opponent by each of these cards becomes 400. Come on. Like, I took the time to get all of these out on the field, and they all have small attacks anyway. Just let me hit my opponent for all of the damage.
No, because it's competing with Checkmate, and Checkmate also gives 2,000 damage, and so they have to keep it fair.
That's
2,000
true.
maximum.
That's true. It does the same amount of damage.
Yeah.
But like, going back to like, you're already in a good position if you're able to activate this card. If your opponent hasn't killed any of these monsters, they're probably attacking directly anyway, right? Like, your opponent's field is probably clear. I guess like you could have locked down your opponent, and you're both like under level limit. Well, even that wouldn't even make sense to like lock down the opponent with level limit and gravity bind, because then
No.
you're only attacking in with 2 of these.
Right.
So yeah, no, your opponent probably just has a clear field and you're attacking in with these anyway. But like, if you're doing like 1 or 2 of these per turn, say you've got Premature Burial, Call of Haunted, something like that, you've already attacked your opponent for a lot of damage. You're probably just killing them, or they're already dead. So this card, I think putting it lower than Necross makes sense to me, because I think this card has a weaker effect. Necross can actually snowball the game and win. And I think Necross setup is actually easier. As
You think so?
yeah, as weird as that sounds, just putting all of these in your deck, which I have done, and then summoning them all out onto the field.
Yeah.
Okay, you could actually talk about mustering. I'll bring that up. Mustering of the Dark Scorpions. If you have a face-up Dawn Zalug, you can special summon any of the Dark Scorpions from your hand, but only 1 copy
Your
of each.
hand. From your
Yeah, from hand. Yeah. It's just not going to happen. There's no case where you're ever. Well, first of all, there's no case. I'm going to hate on Gorg again. There's no case where you're ever putting that
No.
card in your deck in the first place. And generally, you're probably not playing Chick the Yellow either. So you're just or Minet, even though there have been tops with that
Whoa,
card.
whoa, whoa,
There
whoa,
have been
whoa.
tops with that card in your deck. I like the card. I wish I could search Donzalug, but yeah, you're just not putting these cards in your deck. It takes way too much setup. It's win more, and it has a downside by cutting all of the attacks to 400. The card's just it's just bad.
Yeah, I know I swore off being nice, but I have one nice thing to say and one not nice thing to say. The nice thing to say is that at least, the first line of text is just an activation requirement. And so it's not like the earlier trap cards where they could just ruin your entire day by just destroying whatever you target with the card, and then it's just over. This is you can flip it, and no matter what happens to the 5 monsters after that, you will at least still get the effect, and that is nice.
Yep.
That being said,
Yeah.
the Dark Scorpion cards are bad. Let's be real. Like Minet,
Yeah.
I think, is one of the better ones because you can get card advantage, but Minet can't get Donzalug, and then Chick the Yellow is semi-limited, right?
It is. Yep.
And so, like, it's going to be harder to. I mean, you can search him with Minet, but like, do you want to? Because
Right.
he's also like one of the worst ones. Like, you'd much rather have like probably either another copy of Minet or Cliff
Oh yeah.
or Don, but you can't get Don because that would be too good.
Yeah. Yeah. You're going to be seeing a lot of cards from here on out where the setup for the card is just so either just hard to pull off or just completely not worth it, and that's what makes the card super duper bad. And I think that's kind of the case with this one.
Yes, I think what makes this card higher up on the list and not at like the very very bottom is that it is super duper win more. I
Yeah.
think we all agree on that. But it is still like a good effect. It is really
Yeah.
hard to do, but if you do it, you will win more. It will contribute to your win, which is good. Some of
Yes.
these other ones won't. It will actually negatively contribute to your win and are equally difficult to do.
Yes. Yes. Some of them are. Whew, some of these cards coming up are strict downgrades.
Yeah.
And man, are they going to be fun to talk about. Speaking though of cards with setup costs that actually have good effects, man, this card's art is so good. I hate
So
I hate having this card here, but everyone knows Sorcerer of Dark Magic. Just look at it. The card's beautiful. But yeah, so Sorcerer of Dark Magic. It's a level 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, this is a level 9.
Yes.
Spellcaster, 3200 attack, 2800 defense, not bad. This card cannot be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned from your hand by tributing. Yeah, here we go with the hand again. By tributing 2 level 6 or higher spellcaster type monsters and cannot be special summoned by other ways. During either player's turn, when a trap card is activated, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. This card must be faced up on the field to activate and to resolve this effect. So, this is basically just the counterpart to Horus. As far as the effect goes, you can negate traps instead of spells, which is not as good. The spell cards, of course, are the more powerful ones in GOAT format, but it is a very powerful, very good effect. But you got to tribute 2 level 6 or higher spellcaster type monsters, and man, that's a lot to summon a card that basically has no protection outside of protection from traps. Because you, in some sort of way, you have to put some sort of setup into both of those spellcaster type monsters. The easiest way that I can think of to make this work without being like a super high cost to you would be to summon 2 Chaos Sorcerers. Unless you can think of something that's easier than that.
Yeah, I'm thinking that you there's probably a way to like semi cheat this out if you play some high level but low attack spellcaster type monsters in your deck that you can cheat out with like Mystic Tomato. Like I don't remember what Mind on Airs
I
attack
literally
value
just
or
typed that
level.
card in to Dueling
Did
Book.
you?
Mind on Air is a level 6. So
Okay.
you could use Mind on Air. Um,
Minor Nair's a spellcaster, right?
it is indeed a spellcaster, yeah.
Okay, yeah, mine on air. You want two of them for double redundancy. Yeah. And so yeah, you could there's like maybe some way that you can do this where attributing two isn't as penalizing as it would otherwise be. And I think this one, honestly, Kuhb is going to be really controversial. I think people
Yeah.
are going to look at this and be like, this is like far better than like a lot of cards on this. Like maybe even better than like Infinite Cards, which is the best card on this list as far as we're concerned.
Yeah.
But I think for me, what it comes down to is that you're putting in a ton of resources,
Yep.
either like legitimate resources like tributing to Chaos Orc, or resources in terms of building your deck with inferior cards like Mind on Air to try to cheat this out. And then you get it out, right? At that point, it's open season. If they snatch steal this, you put in
Oh.
so much effort to get this out, and you are like screwed.
I didn't even think about Snatch Steal. Oh my god.
Yeah, like it's like I mean there are tons of ways you can kind of remove this card in like a silly way that just like makes it kind of a nothing burger.
Yeah.
Everything that we talked about with Necross also works with this card, right? And so it's kind of just like womp womp. But if they take it from you, it is really bad.
Yeah.
And so and that's why Horus is better, right? Because Horus protects itself
Yeah.
specifically from that, and so you don't have to worry about that. So I think this card is actually, I think it's a trap. I think you see the stat line higher the BLS, you see the really cool like Omni trap negate, and you think like, okay, high summon cost, the low kind of like flexibility in terms of getting it back once it's destroyed, but it's worth it because the inherent goodness of the card. But no,
Yeah.
I think that this is bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely very powerful effect. But as you said, you're sinking tons and tons of resources into this. Like, even if you are taking like the Mystic Tomato and like maybe we're missing something better than Mind on Air that you can get out with the Mystic Tomato.
It's possible, yeah.
Or maybe there's some spellcasters that aren't dark because it doesn't specify dark.
That is true.
Like, that's a deck building cost, and you're putting multiple, it has to be multiple level 6 or higher spellcaster type monsters to tribute or to tutor out onto your field that you then have to protect, presumably, to summon this thing. So it's a real deck building cost, and even then you're still, at very best you're minus one yourself. Also, you're relying on those tutors to get these monsters onto the board. And if that doesn't happen, then you're probably going to have to tribute summon them, which is even more resources. So yeah, you're gonna have to go like Mystic Tomato, hope it dies by battle, summon Mind on Air, hope it lives, do that again, and then summon this thing whenever you could just be doing just literally anything else.
Yeah, and it's really tough, right? Because like opponent activates Solemn Judgment, you go -2.
Yeah.
Just straight up, right? And so, because it can't stop that, and
yeah,
I'm reading the effect, and it's a when a trap card is activated, you can. So it's an optional effect with a specific trigger, which means it can miss the timing. And so there's probably a way that you can figure out a way to like even like.
No, it's a quick effect. You can.
It is, but I wonder if there's like a way you can chain stack, like you can stack a chain to block it. I think.
I don't think so, because you can activate this anywhere on the chain, since it's a quick effect.
I don't know though, because like I don't think the quick effect matters, because like you can chain block Torrential Tribute, for example, and that's the same spell speed.
Sure, but that's
so I think this is blockable.
That's
if you
that's
make
like
the
whenever
trap chain link 1 and make something else chain link 2, I think it can't respond to the first trap anymore because it missed the timing.
Your opponent doesn't have the option to do that though, is the problem. Because like whenever they activate that whenever they activate that Torrential Tribute, priority passes to the controller of Sorcerer of Dark Magic to respond to it.
Right. I'm thinking like a scenario where there's like, I don't know, like an inherent something that you activate the trap card and like it stacks something else on the chain, or like you already used an effect, or the trap card you're using would add a chain to the chain, if that makes sense. I would be interested to hear if anyone can think of a situation with this, because I know for a fact that like when you can are kind of um like buzzwords for cards that can miss the timing. And so this might be unique in that it like specifically negates a card instead of like doing some other third effect in respect to a card like Torrential Tribute. But I do think that there is a way that you can kind of cheese this. Other than like Book of Moon, right? Because if you activate Book of Moon in the chain where it's trying to negate, it can't negate anymore, right? Because it has to be face up to resolve it.
That's true. Yeah. So if you, yeah, okay. So if you finish your chain with Book of Moon,
Yeah,
none of the
then you
activations
just
of this
win.
card work.
Yeah.
Wow. That's that's so bad.
It's pretty bad, right? Yeah, and so that's why my overall thesis with this card is that it's a trap. It's a really good card, but it
Yeah.
convinces you to spend resources, and then it's like deceptively easy to get rid of, I think.
Yeah. This is another one in my mind that was kind of contentious as well. Because I kept
Mhm.
looking at it, I was like, that's such a good effect. And just the more we talk about it, the more I'm like, nah, we're right. This card's just terror bad.
Yeah, I mean, it is a dark and it is a high level monster, which automatically gives it a little bit of stuff, but most of the time you're going to be drawing this card. Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
You can find a way to cheese this out, but like you're going to have in your hand and you're not going to be ready for it. You're just not. And so you're not going to summon this card. It's very, very unlikely. And even
Yeah.
like you can be like, oh, it has really good attack. It can get over BLS, but like what are the chances that your opponent summoned a BLS and you still have two level 6 or higher spellcaster type monsters available? That's just, it won't happen. And
Yep.
so yeah, this card is one of the worst cards in the format for sure.
Yep, for sure. Card that is not going to be contentious, I don't think at all. A lot of people point to this card whenever they're talking about bad, useless, just garbage cards that could have been so much better. That is Mirage Knight.
Yeah,
Another card with sick
sad.
art.
Its art is so good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's so sick. But this is a level 8. Yeah, a level 8 monster with pretty decent stats, 2800 attack, 2000 defense. Its effect reads, cannot be normal summoned or set. Wow. Must be special summoned by Dark Flare Knight and cannot be special summoned by other ways. Here we go again. During damage calculation only, this card gains attack equal to the original attack of the opponent's monster it is battling. During the end phase of a turn, this card attacked or was attacked.
Oh man,
Banish this card.
man. It doesn't even go to your grave. You can't even fuel chaos with it.
Yeah, it's gone.
Why?
And it's like attacked by anything.
Yeah.
So sure, like it's gonna deal a lot of damage, assuming you didn't just randomly attack a defense position monster with it. But you can let it sit on your side of the field, and it's not even a good blocker because your opponent can just attack into it with anything, and then it's dead. Banished, even worse. Or if you attack, you deal a little bit of damage, and then it's gone. And then all of that set up, which getting Dark Flare Knight out either takes some amount of resources, or it takes 5,000 life points from Cyberstein. So it's a costly setup to get this thing out, and then you're getting something that's just gonna go away. It is indeed going to be a mirage.
Pun. Yeah, it's awful because you can just remove this card with Sakuretsu armor.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, zero
and so
protection.
it's just-
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it has like an okay effect, though I will say like you can look at this and you're like, okay, you want to get damage in, right? But it can't even get over Injection Fairy Lily. It's
Yeah.
under Lily. And so like it's not even like
Wow.
a particularly good effect. it's
Well, I guess if you're attacking with it, because they both activate during damage calculation.
it's original attack though.
Oh my god, it is.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so bad.
Yeah. No, that's
It's like it's not even good. Like, oh, limiter removal. Like, oh, Mirage Knight counters that. Nope.
no. It.
Nope.
You mentioned Book of Moon with Sorcerer of Dark Magic. You attack with this into your opponent's monster, and you're like, yes, I'm gonna win, and then they book their own monster.
Yep.
And
And
you
then the
lose your
Mirage
Mirage
Knight gets banished.
That's so bad. Oh god, man. Even reading the cards deeper, it's just like this is even worse. But
It's even worse.
I do want to touch on Dark Flare Knight.
Okay.
So the Dark Flare Knight is Dark Magician plus Flame Swordsman.
My
So
God.
if you are bringing this out the absolute traditional way with polymerization, you have to do that twice, and you have to have Flame Manipulator, Masaki the Legendary Swordsman, and Dark Magician in your hand or field. But no one's going to do that. So even just like, let's look at it through the Fusion Gate lens, which is pretty easy. So you have to have Dark Magician. Let's be real, you're not going to use Flame Swordsman. We'll just be fair. You're going to use some sort of substitute. So first of all, you have Dark Magician in your deck. It's not great. And then you're using a substitute, and you are downgrading your Dark Magician to 2200 attack for this card, which Dark Flare Knight is actually a good card. I include it in all of my competitive Fusion decks. Says you take no battle damage from battles involving this card. That's fine. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, special summon one Mirage Knight from your hand or deck. So it's not even like a super easy thing to trigger. Like if this card is destroyed, summon out a Mirage Knight. No, it specifically has to be destroyed by battle. So,
Yep. And sent to the graveyard specifically. Can't be banished.
yeah, you can't even attack into your opponent's DD Warrior Lady equipped with an Axe of Despair. But yeah, so you're either giving up resources with your Fusion Gate to summon out this card in hopes that it gets destroyed by battle, to bring out your boss monster that's not going to stay on the field very long, or you're paying 5,000 life points with Cyberstein to bring this out. I guess you could bring it out with Metamorphosis as well, but even then, like if you're using Metamorphosis, you're sacrificing a level 6 to bring this out when you could be bringing out like, Ryu Senshi, Darkblade the Dragon Knight, something like that, rather than summoning this guy just to get rid of it for something that's going to get rid of itself.
Well, you're lousy with level 6s though, because you're playing a Sorcerer of Dark Magic deck, and so you need all sorts of level 6 spellcaster monsters, and so you can get rid of the excess ones. It's fine.
You're only able to get one Mind on Air on the board. Why not go into Dark Flare Knight instead?
That's another avenue. Yeah.
We broke it.
And hey,
we broke it. That's it.
You can get Mirage Knight from deck. We've been wanting that for the past 2 monsters.
That's true. That's
Come on,
true.
Kuhb. It's good.
You can summon the card from the deck, and I will give it this. If the card has a redeeming feature, it's that it thins the deck of something awful.
Itself.
Exactly.
It's a shame with both those cards. It could have been like meta, really cool art cards, but they gave the art to bad cards instead.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of the cool anime cards with cool art, they're just not good. They're just there just to be there and look cool.
Yeah. Though, we talked about this a little bit last week with like Spear of the Pharaoh. I think Mirage Knight, more than Necross even, is kind of like a cool mini game for people to play. Like, it's not good, but you can kind of have fun in the playground sense of GOAT format, where your goal is to summon Mirage Knight and do something with it, and then it makes you happy when you do it. And people will pop off if you summon Mirage Knight. They will love it. Yeah. And so that counts for something for sure, I think.
It definitely counts for something. At least in the coolness factor, or hey, people just engage with Yu-Gi-Oh in different ways. And if that's the way that you choose to engage with Yu-Gi-Oh, which is kind of my way to engage with Yu-Gi-Oh most of the time, it is a really cool card, at least in that sort of design space. If you have other goals other than winning the game. Speaking of winning, I know this is this has been our longest video by far in this series, but we're over an hour before editing right now.
Oh no!
But these cards have had a lot of layers of badness to go through, so I think it's still cool. I'm not worried about time of videos or anything, but we are getting to what I think is going to be the most contentious card on the list.
You think so?
And that is because this has been predicted in the comments to be number 1 on this list. And we are putting it at double. We're putting it at number 1. That is 11. This card has regional wins and regional tops.
Really?
Really? Yeah. But it's as a joke. A lot of people will put this in their deck as a one of if they've already gotten their nationals invite. Or whatever, just to get this card to top because it's cool. So that was a thing. I don't know if it's still going around, but that was a thing that went around for a while. But number 11, everybody's favorite big boss monster, the iconic Gate Guardian. Someone commented, "This is the worst card ever made in Yu-Gi-Oh's history." Why are we putting it? Why are we putting this at number 11? Clearly, this is a 1 billion star monster. It has 3750 attack, 3400 defense. This card cannot be normal summoned or set. Must first be special summoned. Thank you. We can finally summon it in other ways. By tributing one Sangha the Thunder, Kazajin, and Suijin. This card is not number 1 on the list, and this card is not lower on this list for the simple reason that this card has use cases other than summoning it. Because yes, summoning this card, as Petty put it to me, is the worst. But
the worst.
I originally did have this in the top 10. And we talked about it a little bit, but I'll let Petty talk about the use cases for this card that are actually positive other than summoning and attacking with this thing.
All right, so I've gone on a little bit of a rabbit hole ever since Kuhb was playing through I think it was your Pac-Man week, and you threw in Guardian Sphinx, and Guardian Sphinx has a particular support card, which is Arsenal Summoner.
Yep.
Arsenal Summoner is a level 4 monster. It's a flip effect, and if you flip it, you can search from your deck any card that contains the word Guardian in it, with some exceptions that are irrelevant. Gate Guardian is not one of those exceptions. Yep. And so Gate Guardian is searchable from the deck from a flip effect monster, which automatically kind of gives it some utility. Obviously, having it in the deck is really, really bad, because if you ever draw it, you're feeling bad. However, it is possible to build a deck around wanting to have this card in your hand, and that is through the spell card Lighten the Load. Which, if you guys also don't know, it's if you have a level 7 or higher monster, you can, as they used to say in the Yu-Gi-Oh, unite that card with your deck, shuffle it, and draw a new card. And so there is a way that you can use Gate Guardian as kind of, it's definitely not a draw engine really, but you can use it as kind of a recycler to, if you can keep Lighten the Load and a way to search Gate Guardian on the deck long enough, you can kind of snowball in some advantage. And if you can't, and you can only get it into your hand the first time, it is still a high level dark monster.
Yeah.
High level being relevant for ritual cards. You can use this for the entire tribute for any ritual card in the game. And if you do that, or if you otherwise remove it from your hand, it is a dark monster that you can banish for chaos. And so you're not going to summon this.
Yeah.
You're not. If you're willing to go with me on a magical adventure where you build your deck using lots of ritual recruiters, including Arsenal Summoner, it's actually not that bad.
Yeah.
I would rather have it in my deck than a lot of these other cards, honestly, even though this card I think is worse. If you can build around it, it just becomes a garnet instead of something that's like actively like really, really hurting your deck.
Yeah. And I think we're very much talking about good things about this card, because I don't think we need to talk about it. If you summon it, it has no protection, it's going to die. It's just a big beat stick. And you've put a million resources into it. Everybody knows that. But we're trying to justify keeping this thing out of the top 10, basically.
Right.
And that's just the fact that this card has like multiple positive uses where you could put it in your deck. I think that I'm looking at our top 10 right now. Maybe you could swap it with number 10. Like I said earlier, we're comparing trash to trash, but like even this card has more uses than number 10, and our whole top 10 is just like you're just not. So this card doesn't ever have to minus you to be useful, and it can be like Petty said, it can be used in good ways, several different ways. So I think that's good enough to keep it outside of our top 10. However, coming in at number 11, we are still acknowledging this is one of the worst cards ever printed in GOAT format by a wide margin.
Yeah, I think one of the most damning things about it is that the pieces for Gate Guardian themselves, they're not like quote unquote good, but they have good effects and they have good stats. Like they are boss monsters in their own right. And so This
Yeah.
is inherently just going to be like, yeah, this is never going to be good unless Gate Guardian's effect is like amazing enough that you wouldn't want to just have those 3 monsters instead.
Yeah.
So inherently, it's going to be bad no matter what, right?
I think thinking about the effect, actually, if you gave it an amazing effect, even if you just said, whenever you summon this card, even if it's negated, you win the duel. I don't think that's good enough.
No.
Yeah.
You mean the best effects in the best theoretical
the best
effect
possible.
in the game is
Give it
still
the
not good
victory
enough.
dragon effect. You win the match. That's
You don't you don't think it'd be good enough for you win the match? I think it would be.
maybe.
I think you would do it.
Your
Like,
deck
I mean,
would just
obviously it
be
wouldn't be meta.
Well, I guess this would just become the win condition for library, right? Madcap gave me that library deck to play on stream where you just summon Gate Guardian. So like
Okay.
maybe that would just become the match win condition for library. The deck's consistent enough to win one game, right?
It's interesting. Yeah, I think it deserves effect like that. Like
Yeah.
based on like the prestige and coolness of Gate Guardian.
hmm
But yeah, I think it would have to be at that level. I mean, because like other like more reasonable effects would be like it has like an Omni negate basically, but that would be like not even in the remote space of being enough.
Yep.
And that affect's better than every effect in Goat format, really. Because there is really no such thing as an Omni negate. Even Solemn's not an
Yeah.
Omni negate.
Yeah. But we've been talking for a long time now. So
Forever.
if you are still listening, comment down below now that you know the
Yes.
top 40 or the bottom 40. You've seen everything except for the top 10. Comment down below. I know I've said that for like 3 different things now, but like do it again. Tell us
big comments.
Yeah, tell us what you think is in the top 10. Tell us what you think is number 1. I will say I have not seen number 2, number 5, 6, 7, or 10.
That's a lot.
I don't think I've seen anybody guess any of those as being on the list. So yeah, give it a shot. See if you can predict what's coming on the last video. But yeah, this is this has been a long one, but I hope you guys have enjoyed. Do you have anything to say other than your usual before we sign off here, Petty?
See you next Wednesday.
See you next Wednesday.